Ladies and gentlemen, a very, very warm welcome to everyone who's tuning in to today's Aerospace Growth Partnership webinar on innovation, innovation in response to COVID-19. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rosa Wilkinson. I hope at least some of you have come across me in my usual role as of Director of Communications at the High Value Manufacturing Catapult. For those of you who don't know that organisation, first of all, shame on you. We're the organisation that helps manufacturing businesses to really succeed and improve their bottom line through great innovation. Now, we're coming together at a time of real challenge for every single business in the land. I think that the COVID pandemic has helped all of us to think not just about how we do things, but also where we do things, and as a result of that, of course, who we do them with. And that's absolutely the case within aerospace. There we know that COVID-19 has devastated demand for travel globally. We've seen aircraft grounded, government restrictions on travel, and immense changes in passenger behaviours, even where flight remains an option. I think that some have estimated that the cost to the global airline industry is something in the order of £300 billion worth of revenue, so no small beer. And all of that, of course, has impacted hugely on demand for new aircraft and on demand for aircraft maintenance. We have all seen, I think, a drop in demand and deferrals and cancellations. At the same time, of course, we have seen impacts within our own businesses and how we function on the factory floor. Can we get people into our sites? How do we keep them safe while they're working? What does all of that mean for our overall productivity? And I know that in some cases, we're having to completely rethink the way that we do business. Now, the changes that are being driven by the pandemic, I think we all hope, are short-term changes. But we also know that beyond the pandemic, we have to face up to some pretty serious challenges within our industry for the longer term. And those challenges can also, of course, include some opportunities. We're all looking forward to a future of lower carbon emissions and potentially, of course, more local air mobility. How can we make the transition to a very different aerospace world? I don't think any of us could or would deny the scale of the challenges that are facing us. And I guess the question for us today is, can innovation help us to meet those challenges and protect both the firms and the people who work within them into the future? Well, today I am utterly delighted to welcome two dear colleagues who I think can help shed some light on how we approach the challenges. My boss, the High Value Manufacturing Catapult CEO, Dick Elsey. Some of you may know him best more recently, of course, as the man who pulled together the amazing consortium of firms who rose so magnificently to the government's challenge to deliver more ventilators into the NHS. And the wonderful Gary Elliott, who is the CEO of our Aerospace Technology Institute. Gentlemen, a very, very warm welcome to both of you. Dick, can I start with you, if we may? Grateful if you could share a few reflections, if you would please, on how you think that industry has responded to the challenge of the pandemic so far, and what you think that might mean for the challenges that we face going forwards.
Thanks, Rose, and welcome everybody. Yeah, well, the aerospace industry has taken a real body blow. I mean, if you just look at any available graph on industrial performance, supply chain, flight hours, everything's fallen off a cliff. And, it could be a reason to feel bad about ourselves. But I've been really surprised by the resilience and spirit of the sector. And I think it's been amply illustrated in the fact that it has risen and adapted itself to new things in an incredibly short space of time. And I want to use the ventilator challenge. We've just wrapped it up now. as a fantastic example of just that. So, I think many people will know the story that the government in mid-March found itself critically short of ventilators. It only had about 6,000 and was forecasting needing north of 20,000 and couldn't buy any. So it asked industry if it could repurpose itself to make complex medical devices. And, that's not for the faint-hearted when you actually look at what's required. But I can tell you that aerospace, automotive and motorsport stepped forward into the breach for that. And, let's focus on aerospace. We had Airbus, Rolls-Royce, GK Aerospace, Meggitt, Ultra Electronics, Thales, all kind of piled in there with their skill set and said, we're up to take personal risk and corporate risk to make a difference. And it's been incredible to see how seemingly impossible, and many did say it was impossible for aerospace industry to go off and make complex medical devices. It couldn't happen, said the so-called experts. Well, they did, and they completely repurposed themselves. So we had Rolls-Royce buying millions of parts, literally millions of components. And let's face it, Rolls-Royce are used to procuring millions of complex components. So, they were a different sort of component, but they procured them. Airbus tipped its AMRC new centre, which is development for the Wing of Tomorrow program, tipped that over to a manufacturing assembly plant. And in the space of 3 weeks, and I'm not kidding, 3 weeks, it was a digital twin was created with the help of Siemens Healthineers, and working in partnership with Airbus, they built out the entire factory in 3 weeks, and it worked right first time. So, there's aerospace been able to move at an electric pace with a right first time outcome. And together, all amongst ourselves, we've managed to produce 13,400 or more than 13,400 ventilator complex devices to the right quality standard in the space of 12 weeks. And at a peak, we were producing well over 400 units a day in a fantastic piece of industrialization. And so there's aerospace moving into a completely new area in almost infeasibly fast time and producing an outstanding result. And I mean, it's been hugely rewarding, hard work, but hugely rewarding to work in that environment, because it's shown, first of all, the adaptability. It's shown incredible ability to work across the sector. So bringing in aerospace and motorsport together, different three-letter acronyms for the process, but fundamentally, bringing new products to market. It's a very similar process, and we've all adapted very, very quickly to that. And then within the sector, incredible support in the supply chain. So people repurposing themselves to make, some quite complex and medically stringent components. The adaptability there's just been simply astonishing. So for me, whilst the headline might look gloomy, what we're actually looking at is an industry which has got incredible strength, and that strength has been tested and demonstrated over the last 12 or so weeks. And for me, that gives me incredible confidence that, coming out of COVID is just another big challenge to face. And if we can transform industry to bring kit like that to market, then we can rise to the next challenge, which is to get ourselves back on our feet. We'll get Gary on in a minute, keep the torch lit for innovation, which is really important at the moment. And then look onwards to the sunlit uplands of some even bigger challenges like Jet Zero, moving, actually getting ourselves enabled around some really meaty innovation programs. But I think we've seen the real spirit of the aerospace industry in play, and that just needs to be repurposed into these new challenges. We've demonstrated we can do it.
Brilliant, Dick, thank you. I think that gives hope for all of us, doesn't it? An industry that is capable of rising to do, to use your words, the seemingly impossible. Gary, let's turn to you. I mean, the ATI has long been a champion for the sort of innovation that Dick is talking about. And you've certainly been powerful promoters of what we might call disruptive innovation. What role do you think that innovation, and in particular the more disruptive end of innovation, might play for this industry as we move forwards?
Thanks, Rosa, and welcome to those of you joining us today. Before I get into that, to Dick and all involved in the UK Ventilator Challenge, I would like to add my thanks and congratulations. We all greatly appreciate your efforts on that. Perhaps I will start by explaining what I see as disruptive innovation and how it fits within the Aerospace Technology Institute before I get into the role across the aviation industry. First, I would say there are many different approaches to delivering innovation, but what is important is to have a portfolio of options which meets the needs of the specific needs of the problem in question. In the ATI, disruptive innovation forms an important part of the way we design and deliver the UK Aerospace Technology Strategy. The latest version of the strategy was launched in 2019, is named Accelerating Ambition, and is available on our website for those of you interested. We offer a menu of funding mechanisms to encourage innovation, ranging from the strategic program that funds large collaborative research and development, through to our accelerator program focused on startups, to name but a few. We are constantly adapting our portfolio approach and almost certainly see the opportunity to expand into other disruptive approaches to innovation, perhaps using hackathons in short bursts to solve demanding problems in a safe environment. And specifically on disruptive innovation, I would describe it as an innovation that creates a new idea, a new technology, or a new model, which eventually disrupts the existing one. As to the importance for aerospace specifically, innovation, and in particular, disruptive innovation, has a strong role to play in the development of emerging technologies for use by the sector and beyond. In doing so, it can help us deliver against some of our immediate challenges, such as how do we drastically improve environmental sustainability through zero emission flights, help us keep pace with change and new ideas, and in some way acts as a means to retaining market position before being disrupted. And lastly, it creates a much more diverse and fluid ecosystem for innovation. There are a few great examples of disruption already having an impact on the evolution of many aspects of aerospace in the supply chain. I would specifically highlight new modes of transport, such as flying taxis and more regional aircraft for improved yet sustainable connectivity, on the creation of sustainable aviation fuels, particularly for the larger aircraft, on the creation of new, safe and sustainable forms of propulsion for all sizes of aircraft, the models and devices required to make greater connectivity a safe reality, and lastly, how do we make things more efficiently and effectively? These are just a few examples, but good examples of disruption as a result of innovation. Finally, I would say we should be bold and think big about using disruption to positively affect the economy, but also importantly, our sustainability agenda.
Gary, that's really helpful. Thank you. You know, I'm struck by one of the points that you make there, that this is about technologies for the sector and beyond, I think was your phrase. And Dick, one of the things that I'm really struck with is that in the past, when I've looked at innovation projects, innovation has tended to happen down very siloed, sectoral silos. You know, people don't break out of their usual communities. And I think one of the things that we both saw as we worked within the Ventilator Challenge Consortium was how those different sectors, automotive, aerospace, medical devices, came together to deliver results. Are we seeing that sort of cross-sector collaboration and innovation anywhere else? And should we be encouraging rather more of it?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think especially in the area of electrification, and I'll come back to the accelerative effect of the ventilator challenge in a minute. But the auto sector has been working on the thing called the Faraday battery challenge, which goes back to three years now, and it decided to get on with the electrification piece because it's a bit like a boil the ocean thing. Is let's actually start with battery technology because that's pretty fundamental. Got a program away and set a bunch of standards and requirements for battery technology, with always the idea that if automotive took a lead, then other sectors would benefit from that. And what's actually happened is, you know, there's been quite a bit of planet alignment and aero and auto, in terms of battery technology, have found themselves in very similar positions, with the demands being driven into the research base for different chemistries, better performance, better power density, better energy density, robustness, all of that stuff. We're relying on very, very similar territory. You know, this is not like two separate developments. So they're really coalescing around one development. So I think there's a real area where we can get some cross-sector leverage. And the nice thing about coming back to ventilators is we've seen that aero and auto, when thrown together with a common challenge, just seamless. I mean, it's not like it was two separate industries at all. I mean, I said there were slightly different three-letter acronyms, but the processes, it's engineering fundamentally, whether it's Formula One cars, complex diesel engines coming out of Dagenham, or airframes or jet engines, it's the same process and the same thinking, the same logic. So we found ourselves in incredibly intimate, familiar territory. And I think there's a real opportunity to take some of those easy to win common ground challenges like the electrification piece and actually do much more together. Now, we were thrown together in a crisis with ventilators, but you know, we've got an equal crisis in reaching zero carbon. And I think the opportunity to actually get some good cross-sector stuff, get it properly leveraged, and let's face it, if we can get together on more common ground with common purpose and common objectives, we're going to be able to leverage an awful lot more government support, because you know, aero and auto together are a pretty powerful force in terms of UK value add. And I think there's a terrific opportunity. I mean, there's a logic, there's the spirit, we just need to get on with some more execution. And the other thing, talking of bringing innovation to market, again, cross-sector, a crisis like the ventilator thing drove an enormous amount of innovation. So, for example, we had to train well over 3,000 people in how to assemble ventilators. And we couldn't put them all line side, A, because there wasn't enough room in the existing facilities. And of course, we had a COVID virus challenge to face. So we used some advanced technologies that we've been developing in the catapult. So virtual and augmented reality. So we were actually training people in remote locations, being able to directly access the live feed and eyes and ears of the assembly technicians in Dagenham and in Airbus and in the Smiths facilities in Luton. So they were able to access all of that and learn by actually not physically being there, but seeing the full thing. So we had to bring those bits of kit into play. We'd been sort of developing them, but we hadn't had the courage to get on and use them in a widespread way. And we just had to get on and do it. And lo and behold, it delivered some extraordinary results. So embracing apparently risky and challenging technologies because you have to, we got great results. And now Airbus is actually using that technology now. It's got plans to use more of it. Ford are doing the same. Siemens are doing the same. So now, having actually taken the risk and realized it can be done, a great degree of confidence in using those technologies going forward. So there's a kind of message here that the sort of disruptive stuff that Gary's talked about, just get on and do it, you know.
Indeed, and I know that
you'll be surprised by how rewarding, you know, it is commercially and in terms of productivity, time to market. We just need to get on and do some of these things.
And I know that the catapult is encouraging people and actually is there to hold hands and actually bring diverse sectors together. But Gary, thinking about the ATI, I mean, the clue's kind of in your title, the Aerospace Technology Institute. Does that mean that other sectors fight shy of you? What are you doing to try and bring people together and then to encourage them to apply some of these wonderful lessons that we've heard have fallen out of responding at a moment of crisis?
Sure, yeah, thanks, Rosa. Well, in terms of encouraging more disruptive innovation, there are several factors that are essential and in any circumstance, and then there are some factors that need to be flexible to the current circumstances. On essential factors, I would highlight a safe environment with the right leadership, And let me explain what I mean by that. By accepting disruption, you recognize that things are, will, or need to change. And in order to stay relevant, you may need to change too. That therefore requires a safe environment to share your challenges and intellectual property, to name but a few. In terms of specific factors that are dependent on this current circumstance, particularly given the COVID-19 pandemic, then the answer is pretty simple. It's more government support, certainly in the near term. This can come in many forms, and I would say the ATI with government support has been very successful in delivering a very broad set of disruptive technologies in the past and continues to do so. However, aerospace has market failures, and other nations compete heavily to attract aerospace companies into their national boundaries. For that reason, my view is that we need to lean in hard on how we fund innovation, particularly the funding intensity, which can be tweaked for limited periods to sustain and create new activity. For government and our economy, this has a long-term payoff. It is our view that every £1 that government invests generates a further £12 of private investment. It simply makes sense economically, particularly given the scale of the technology spillover that occurs into other sectors that we've talked previously about. I also believe we should be agile in creating new collaborative programs that are bold, sharp, funded programs to get quick results and deliver serious commercial and economic benefit for society and our economy. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit around some of the projects that ATI are proposing at this moment in time.
Thanks very much indeed for that, Gary. There's a huge amount going on at the moment, I'm well aware. But can I come back to the question that I was posing in a way, which is, are you already pulling other sectoral voices into the ATI so that we can make sure that we are getting those cross-sectoral benefits? You talked about you need to change too. Is the ATI changing in that way?
I wouldn't say that we are necessarily changing. You know, we've always been pretty good at accepting other advice from other sectors. So the connection to automotive and the Advanced Propulsion Center is very strong. So we talk on a regular basis. Within the Defense Growth Partnership, we do the same. Obviously, the supply chain of aerospace has a lot of crossover into defense as well. And then, broadening that into, medical devices, etc. I think there's probably an opportunity to do some of that more than we do today. But, I think we're pretty good in aerospace at trying to learn from others where we can. And certainly automotive, in terms of manufacturing, we've learned a lot from that industry in the past and continue to do so. So I think, for the ATI, it's all about collaboration. We're trying to encourage collaboration. If that collaboration goes beyond our sector, then I simply encourage it. It's just trying to get the right people together at the right time, and I think that's obviously been very well demonstrated by the ventilator challenge.
It certainly has. Now, you mentioned that you would come on later to some of the projects that the ATI is involved with at the moment. Shall we do that now? What are the big things, and where is the disruption going to come from?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me just talk a little bit about that in the context of the pandemic, because I think that's important that those of you listening understand that we are doing things and have planned to do more. So let me start by saying that it's a slightly overused phrase at the moment, but the COVID-19 pandemic is simply unprecedented for our industry and has undoubtedly impacted aviation as a whole. Unfortunately, nobody knows exactly what scenario will come true over the coming years. It's likely that our approach to daily life will be impacted, certainly in the short term, and quite probably over the longer term. The positive is that it also offers opportunity for positive disruption. I believe once confidence is restored for passengers, they will start flying again, and the sector will start building again. It may be that the model for air transport is disrupted and evolved to meet the sustainability agenda. With over 50% of flights being under 1,000 kilometers, wouldn't it be great if we could have a zero emission aircraft covering that market, perhaps in some cases in a smaller format than what we're used to, but one that is green and perhaps connecting even more remote parts of our countries. In that respect, some of you will have noted yesterday's announcement supporting the ATI-led program Fly Zero, a sharp, focused project which will second over 100 people from across industry and academia to develop the concept, design and feasibility of a zero emission aircraft. a true potential disruptor. Watch our website for more information on how you might show interest if you choose to do so. And for those of you who are interested in leading such an exciting disruption, particularly in the project director role, then obviously look out for the opportunity to apply. To do this, we need to take a strong, bold, positive approach to crowding in and encouraging research and development. Although not exhaustive, we have focused on looking at the possibility of changing the funding intensity to greater than the 50% gearing that we currently operate. Building ATI specifically led bold, disruptive national programs that rapidly develop emerging technologies and concepts, similar to what Dick referred to earlier. And that a great example is Fly Zero, as I just mentioned. Building the menu of options for all sorts of companies and streamlining the process, particularly for small companies. And lastly, in ensuring we prepare the second cohort of our accelerator for later in the year, starting in 2021. Lastly, I firmly believe that we have the right response, and we continue to build and grow research and development across the whole of the UK, maximizing where we can the use of disruptive innovation.
Gary, that's really helpful and actually quite inspiring if you think about the scale of that challenge, but also the real opportunities for every man, woman and child on the planet, frankly. It means a better world for all of us. But I'm deeply conscious that one of the things that we need to deliver on that opportunity is a really, really high caliber, well-trained workforce. Now, Dick, a moment or two ago, touched on the way that the Ventilator Challenge Consortium had faced the challenge of training up a workforce very, very swiftly where social distancing made life difficult. Have we got the skills that we need here in the UK at the moment to meet that innovation challenge? And Gary, I'll come to you first, if I may, and then Dick, could I pass over to you and just ask what the Catapult might be doing in this space? So, Gary,
yeah, of course. No, so we almost certainly have the skills. You know, the UK is lucky to have a very broad and highly regarded ecosystem of innovation, from universities all the way through to our industrial members and obviously the catapults that go with it. So we certainly have the skills. The challenge for such a project that I just mentioned, Fly Zero, is how do we learn from the ventilator challenge and apply, you know, that similar thinking and philosophy. So for me, the philosophy that we're looking to aspire to is one that is agile, quick, you know, and achieving results. You know, so if we want to meet the sustainability agenda that I mentioned several times, then we have to be bold and we have to be quick. And I think we certainly have the capabilities in the UK to do that. And you know, I'm glad to see that the government are helping support certainly the initial phase of that challenge.
Capability is a terrifically important word. And Dick, before, as you go on to talk about what the Catapult is doing in the workforce space, you might want to say a few words about the capability that the Catapult brings to the Aerospace Innovation Challenge. I mean, I know that the Catapult is probably the leading manufacturing research organization in the whole of Europe. I may be a bit biased, but I think we've got incredible capabilities. What are we actually doing to help these guys complete the journey?
Well, I mean, we've been on the journey already with Gary and the team. I mean, you know, examples are, you know, we've been the Wing of Tomorrow program, which is just, you know, incredible piece of work where we're developing the manufacturing processes for a new wing at full scale. So it's pretty awesome to see 17-meter lengths of carbon fiber being put down with a robot that's the size of a semi-detached house, and it moves at faster than jogging pace. It's incredible, but it demonstrates that we have got the inherent innovation and engineering capability to pull something like that off. Now I know all the challenges, of course, with COVID, you know, slowed things down there. For me, there's a job of work to do to keep, as I said earlier on, to keep the torch lit for innovation. So we're pushing really hard to keep those innovation programs going. And if industry's finding it difficult getting back on its feet, the Catapult is prepared to step in and keep things going. So that offer's on the table, and we've got some acceptance of that, and we're pushing on with it. But, you know, everything that we do in the HVM Catapult is about innovation. And, you know, in the aerospace industry in particular, the aggregated know-how that we've got in the UK, supported by the catapult, is a very, very attractive thing for inward investment. And I hope we can do more of the kind of things that we've done in Sheffield, where we bought some incredible regional stimulus off the back of leading technology. So those who on the webinar may know of the AMRC, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre in Sheffield. It's one of the 7 centres in the High Value Manufacturing Catapult. And amongst other things, those guys know how to cut metal hard and fast. And if you thought you knew everything about cutting metal, as I did when I first came to the catapult, and assumed that there was the odd 0.5% to be grabbed here and there in terms of productivity improvement, and think again, these guys have doubled productivity improvement on cutting metal. And off the back of that know-how, which has been very valuable to Boeing, and we've taught Boeing how to improve things in the States to keep their industry competitive. Some of the quid pro quo is to come and set up a factory here in the UK in a challenged part of our economy in Sheffield. So there's a brand spanking new factory in Sheffield producing components, wing components. And I can tell you it's already producing wing components more cost effectively than they got them out of Mexico. And the average age of the shop floor technicians is about 20. And most of those technicians have been trained by the MRC. So there's a fantastic message there that off the back of technology, it made the UK attractive to come and have a look to access the technology. Deploying that technology made the UK an attractive place to physically do it. And here we've got a factory, great inward investment, great anchor brand to help other companies, cluster around it. We need to be doing more of that. So the key message is, even though the industry's in a really tough space at the moment, it's keeping going with those things that will lead to a stronger, longer-term business when brighter days return.
I don't know if you know, Dick, but I grew up not too far from that particular part of South Yorkshire, just down the road in Doncaster, and Orgreave, which is where the AMRC is sited, was, I'm sorry to say it, the very definition of its grim up north. You would not use that phrase now. It is an absolute example of how technology can transform a community. It is buzzing. There are people there with high quality jobs paying above national average wage levels. It is absolutely fizzing with new companies that have grown up around the AMRC, and that's very much thanks to the early investment that Boeing made to set up site there so that it could tap into the AMRC's capabilities. It really is a success story, and one that this government, which talks so much about levelling up, would do very well to note, and I know that they have got the point. Dick, Gary made a few points there which were very much for government ears. Are there any points that you would make?
To government ears? Well, keep your foot flat on the pedal on innovation. And the models like the ATI have worked extremely well. It's been for me, in my career, it's been one of the best interventions as a stimulus model led by people that know what they're doing and how to place the right innovation bet. So government money put in the right place at the right time by the right people has led to some fantastic projects and stimulus. It's an incredibly successful formula, and I don't think there's anything wrong in saying, can we have more of the same, please? And the Fly Zero is a great example of that. When Gary was saying we're looking for a project manager, if I was a younger man, I'd be straight in there. What a fantastic thing that will be to lead and to bring in some real talent. Because, again, one of the concerns is we're going to lose momentum in innovation, but what better antidote to that than having, a real cutting edge, not a research program, let's get a plane in the sky that's proper zero emissions. Great. It's as good as it gets, to be honest. So let's have more of that.
Indeed, absolutely. So, gentlemen, we've actually covered quite a lot of ground here, and I'm conscious that our time is ebbing away. What I'd like to do now is to come to you both for any final reflections, things that you think that we might not have covered in our discussion just now, on how we seize the innovation challenge and turn it into something that really keeps the whole nation strong into its future. And Gary, if I may I start with you? Just 3 or 4 minutes, if you would.
Yeah, no, for me, you know, it is a challenging time, and you know, it has not been great for many reasons that I won't go into, but equally, it's full of opportunity, right? So, you know, I want to encourage people to continue to innovate, to continue to participate. You know, and where relevant, get in touch. You know, look at the funding mechanisms we have in place within the ATI and benefit from that. So, you know, don't take your foot off the gas. Now's the time to continue to innovate. You know, you can make that business. You know, that will make a profit for you. You know, this is the time to use what we have in the UK. So I just want to keep everybody focused on that. Obviously, the pandemic has probably emphasised the sustainability agenda, certainly for the likes of me living in central London. So whilst I work in an industry that's trying to improve itself, I also benefiting from some of you know, the environment today. But so I just want to encourage that to keep going. You know, lean into that disruption and be ambitious, be bold, and just don't take your foot off the gas, because you know, I certainly have no intentions of doing that within the ATI. And the support of the government, as I've already mentioned, is increasing. So there's even more opportunity. And I certainly have ambitions to do even more disruptive stuff, some of which I mentioned earlier. And again, for those who have ideas around that, I'm all ears for that. So that's all I would say, Rosa. You know, I just you know, lastly, just like to say thanks for listening, for everybody, and you know, particularly if you're interested in the project director role, or indeed in participating on Fly Zero, get in touch, because well, whatever age you happen to be, we want a real mix of individuals. So thanks for listening, yeah, and Rosa, appreciate your questions as well.
A final reflection, but first something I perhaps didn't have a chance to comment on, which is the thing about have we got the workforce fit for this, is, yeah, sure, we've got the right raw material, but the question is, how do we reskill the workforce? How do we get that content out and get it right? I can reassure the audience present that there's an awful lot of work going on with that. So the HVM Catapult's working with Ingenuity, which is Centre the Skills. We're working with David Sainsbury's Gatsby Foundation, because he's very keen on this. How do we teach people advanced technologies? Because there isn't an obvious place to do that, you know, particularly in the technician space. So what we're doing is doing the foresighting, because I think the high value manufacturing catapult, with the thousands of customers it works with, to be of any use, it has to look deep into their technological plans for the future. When you aggregate that all together, it means that we've got quite unique insight into where the technologies are heading, and therefore able to do the foresighting. So we're helping with the foresighting. We're getting funding, hopefully, from Gatsby have helped us with funding to get started. We're hoping to get some funding from the DFE to help develop more content, so actually, in fact, develop the training material and then begin to cascade it out. So all of this big shift that we might need to make towards electrification, you know, the plan is to do that foresighting content cascade. So there's a big process that's being worked on, and within the AGP, there's a skills group that's a key part of that. So just be reassured, there's some really good mechanisms being developed to do that. The final comments, just picking up on Gary saying, let's keep the foot flat on the gas pedal. As you've seen with the ventilator challenge, the spirit of innovation and doing things seemingly impossible is already there. So proven, it's there. We just need to apply that to the challenge. Next aerospace challenges that face us, getting back to business, keeping the torch lit. And, you know, innovation, all stuff doesn't favour the faint-hearted. It favours the brave. So, you know, let's just get on with it. You know, we've got the metal, as in Ellie. just do it.
Lovely. Thank you, Dick. I am very much reminded of the phrase, can we do it? Yes, we can. So, I'm deeply conscious that at times like these, there are plenty of doom mongers out there ready to hammer down the coffin lid on any industry, frankly. And I think that if I were to take one message from what you've both had to say today, it's very simple. We shouldn't be taken in by them. Yep, we know that these are challenging times for the aerospace industry, but people will come back to air travel. We will still need to move goods around the global marketplace. We still need an aerospace industry, and we've absolutely got the capability that we need to deliver one that produces the tools without having the negative effects that we all want to get away from, like high carbon emissions. Innovation now, it seems to me, means that we can both meet the challenges that we face and seize the new opportunities, which mean that we are robust and resilient in a much brighter future, and a cleaner air for those of us living in central London, Gary. It sounds to me like both of you, both of your organisations absolutely have the appetite and the capability to make this change happen, especially if government will be willing to come on the journey with you. I thank you very, very warmly for what you've had to say today. I thank you for the time that you've been willing to commit to this webinar. I know that you are both very busy guys. And thank you to everyone who has tuned in. This is a team sport. If we work together, we will achieve far more. If there's one thing I learned in the Ventilator Challenge, it's that a team made up of diverse individuals can achieve almost anything. It's incredible. Let's all move forward together, please, with a sense of real determination, but also one of optimism. But for now, thanks very much indeed, everyone. And gentlemen, thank you.